So thank you for being here today. I am Representative Kelly Moeller. I live in Shoreview and represent District 40A in the northern Ramsey County suburbs. I'm also the chair of the House Public Safety Committee. Today, the House will vote on 3 gun violence prevention measures that will save lives in Minnesota. Firearms are the leading cause of death of children and adolescents in America. Kristen Song's 15-year-old son, Ethan, was one of those children who was playing with an unsecured gun at a friend's house when he was shot and killed. While Kristen has advocated across the country for safe storage legislation, like Representative Becker Finn's bill, these tragic and preventable shootings happen in Minnesota. Last August, a 3-year-old found his father's unsecured guns and shot himself and died. Behind every gun a child improperly accesses is an adult who did not store the gun properly. Unsecured firearms are also responsible for too many suicides and gun thefts in Minnesota. And when guns are lost or stolen, they need to be reported to law enforcement, as Representative Herr's bill requires. Most stolen firearms originate from thefts from homes and cars, and reports of lost or stolen firearms help law enforcement track guns that are later used in crimes. The Representative Herr bill also works in tandem with the straw purchaser law, which leads to Representative Berg's bill. Representative Berg's bill does 3 things. First, it requires annual reporting on gun trafficking. Second, it increases penalties on straw purchasing and closes loopholes in the law to make Minnesota's straw purchaser law more effective. Finally, Representative Berg's bill bans binary triggers, the type used in the Burnsville and Fargo shootings that effectively turn the guns into fully automatic guns. In describing the binary trigger used to murder a Fargo police officer, the North Dakota Attorney General called the binary trigger purposeless. He continued, "Everything you hit, you'll hit twice," and that the officers had no time to reach for their guns given the rapid fire caused by the binary trigger. It is perplexing that the Minnesota GOP will attempt today, via an amendment on the floor, to remove the ban on binary triggers from the Berg bill. This directly impacts first responder safety. Gun violence in Minnesota is an epidemic, and DFLers this year are building on the gun violence prevention measures that we enacted into law last year. Expansion of criminal background checks, extreme risk protection orders, increased penalties for switches, and substantial investments in violence prevention efforts. The bills that we are hearing today will save lives, and that is why we are bringing them to the House floor for a vote.
I'm Representative Kayla Berg. I represent District 55B, which is the heart of Burnsville. To build upon what Chair Moeller already told you, on February 18th of this year, Burnsville suffered a tremendous loss when 3 of our finest first responders were fatally shot and another injured in the line of duty. My community's experience is no one's political fodder. We are grieving and we are healing. But when we know better, we do better. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to learn and evolve to keep our communities safe and protect our first responders. We have come to learn through the BCA's investigations that the firearm that was used that morning was affixed with a binary trigger, which is a device that doubles a semi-automatic firearm's rate of fire by releasing 1 round when the trigger is pulled and another upon the release of the trigger, essentially making it fully automatic. Because of the use of a binary trigger, our officers and firefighter paramedics had no time to mount a defense, and we know that this was the cause of the tragic outcome in my community. Binary triggers have been banned in 13 states, including Florida and Iowa, pretty red states. We know the assailant was prohibited from owning a firearm. However, he had access to several guns that were obtained through a straw purchase, which is when a firearm is purchased by a person on behalf of another who is unable to legally make the purchase themselves. House File 2609 bans binary triggers, prohibits straw purchasing of all firearms, raises the penalty for a straw purchase from a gross misdemeanor to a felony, and requires the Minnesota Department of Public Safety to submit an annual report to the legislature that must include information about gun trafficking. And these are investigations performed by the BCA and the Violent Crimes Enforcement Teams.
Good afternoon. I'm State Representative Khalil Vang Her. I am the House author of House File 601, requiring reporting of lost and stolen firearms. The chief author is Bonnie Westland in the Senate. I am a firearms owner, and I have taken hunter safety, gun safety, and conceal and carry. This issue matters to me because I understand the responsibility of owning a gun. This bill was introduced last year with the support of law enforcement. In a letter from local law enforcement, it was reported that gun theft is a growing problem. This is consistent with what we are seeing nationally. In a 2017 study by the National Library of Medicine, it estimated that 380,000 guns are stolen in the United States each year, equivalent to one every 90 seconds. According to the FBI, an estimate of 1.8 million guns were stolen in the United States between 2012 and 2017, with more than 11,000 of those firearms being stolen in Minnesota. Stolen guns often end up in the illegal gun market. This is an appealing source of firearms for people who legally are prohibited from having guns. Lost and stolen reporting laws can help prevent straw purchases, as Representative Berg and Representative Mueller stated. These are purchases in which someone can legally purchase a firearm, buy it for someone who cannot legally buy it for himself or herself. Without reporting laws, straw purchasers can simply claim that their gun that they bought and gave to a prohibited person was lost or taken in an unreported theft. Finally, lost and stolen laws help prevent gun trafficking across state lines. One study found that crime guns originating in states with a lost or stolen reporting law were 30% less likely to end up in another state than guns that came from states without such laws. Currently, 16 states have some type of law requiring reporting. It is time for Minnesota to follow suit. This is a common sense firearm bill, and we have to get it across the finish line this year. Thank you so much.
And then I'm Representative Dave Pinto from the southwest part of St. Paul. I serve as the chair of the House Children and Families Finance and Policy Committee, and I also serve as outside the legislature as a prosecutor, felony prosecutor in the East Metro. And unfortunately, the issue of gun violence really combines both of those areas, and of course I really wish that it didn't. As Chair Moeller said, gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in our country, and so the bills that you've just heard about will take steps to address that. Chair Moeller and I hosted a joint hearing of our two committees a while back now, towards the beginning of session, to really explore the intersection of these issues and what we could do about them, and it was there that we passed the bill described by Representative Herr and the bill authored by Representative Becker-Finn. There are steps that we can take. This is part of the long-term steps that we're moving towards to make sure that we're addressing gun violence. And in particular, I want to highlight the safe storage bill as being something that will keep young people in our community safe, as will all of these. I'm so glad to be with all of you. I think we're going to turn things over to questions, but I'll turn things back to Chair Moeller.
Questions?
I got one for Representative Berg. Any thought to separating the straw purchases from the binary triggers? I recognize that they're both related to the Burnsville incident, but one of those measures seems to be widely popular and the other seems to be more controversial.
Yes, thank you for the question. I do not plan to separate the two bills. It's actually less controversial than you think. There is no purpose in which you use a binary trigger. I've done some research. You can't use it hunting. You would obliterate whatever you're trying to hunt. And I even looked into it for shooting sports like trap. There is some controversy in the community, the sports shooting community, and that really is folks that don't use the binary trigger in that context don't care for folks that do.
Do you have any reason to believe these can all pass the Senate?
I think that one of the important questions to ask is to ask the GOP why they don't support these. We are doing the work in the House. We expect them to pass the House floor today. And the question is, when these measures are widely popular amongst the public why GOP members would vote no. The polling again shows that measures like safe storage are very popular. And as I mentioned before, it is absolutely perplexing to me that the GOP is trying to remove the binary trigger ban from Representative Berg's bill. I don't know if they've been asked the question why. Why are they trying to do that? I heard them say things in committee like, it's already illegal. It's not. We know federal dealers are selling them, including to the woman who purchased the gun in the Burnsville incidents. They'll say, well, it's confusing because it might be banning regular guns. It's not. We had the expert of the BCA crime lab, the gun crime lab, testify and explain how binary triggers work. They don't ban regular guns. We repeatedly asked GOP members, provide us with alternative language. If you don't like the language that's used, they have not done so. Instead, they're trying to eliminate it from the bill, and these are very dangerous, and it will save lives to ban them in Minnesota.
A follow-up to that, because, your colleague just mentioned about getting it across the finish line. I mean, the Senate and your colleagues in the DFL, they have issues right now, maybe guaranteeing that last vote, and Republicans, at least from what we're hearing, saying, look, they're gonna delay any and all vote no matter the issue, unless Democrats work in a bipartisan way, because of, the controversy surrounding Senator Mitchell. So what is your response to that, and what do you think about, her being able to cast a deciding vote, if given these investigations?
Yeah, two things to that. First of all, again, this should be all of these bills should be bipartisan measures. Absolutely, all three of these should be bipartisan measures. The other thing I'll say is we are the House. We're going to continue to do the work of the House and the work that the Minnesotans want us to do, and that's why we're bringing these bills forward today.
Anything else?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.